Just moving on. Are we building anything in this country? This is generation capacity. The answer is no. We used to be building things in this country, but we are no longer. We built a lot of gas-fired capacity, in the early 2000s, but we're not building anything. We built some wind. It's a good and growing resource in this country. That's a great news story. Technology has contributed to that, but for all intents and purposes, everything has come to a dead stop. And why is that? This is all of the regulations that industry is trying to navigate over a very short period of time between 2010 and 2013. This is in air quality, fuel regulations, greenhouse gases, air toxics. Nobody knows what to invest in. And this is going to take a very long period of time and a lot of money to navigate. We took on a project to try and actually take all of these regulations and model them and say, this is what's going to happen to GDP, this is what's going to happen to our energy sources. And after 6 months of doing this, we came to the conclusion with the people that were doing the models, which actually is the same model that's employed by EIA, the Department of Energy, it was impossible to model this. And if we can't model it, and the modelers for the government can't model it, what do we think is going to happen? We don't know what the impact of this is going to be on our energy security, on our environment, because this is what it's supposed to improve, and we certainly have no idea what it's going to happen on GDP. And what it's telling people is sit on your money, sit on your capital, sit on your jobs, or go elsewhere. And that's a terrible energy policy, and it's, of course, a lunatic economic policy, but that's what's happening. Now, on the other side of things, there are some good things that are happening. And I think we have to credit some of technology and some of policy, but I think most importantly, we have to credit the private sector, which is we are a much more efficient economy today than we were a scant 30 years ago. We're 50% more efficient, and as the EIA has forecasted, we're becoming more efficient. That means that we're using less energy to produce more, hopefully, over time. We are certainly improving our CO2 footprint. And of course, we're doing a lot to diversify our energy resources because of that. But that's principally because of technology. It is not because of the R&D policy of the government. It is because of self-interested private industry that knows it can make money off of selling these technologies, and that by using less energy, they can become more profitable. This is a good story, but we shouldn't attribute it just to government policy or government R&D investments. I'm almost finished. We also have to take into account where the public is. And at the moment with the economy, this is from Pew. They do this survey every year in January, so it's just done several weeks ago. What do they value right now? And because of what I showed you before, gasoline prices going up, heating oil prices going up, albeit we've had a fairly mild winter in the Northeast, people are very concerned about energy prices. They're very concerned about the reliability of energy, and they are much prioritizing energy right now over the environment and over global warming. So you've got to have the public over here talking with their pocketbook, and we've got policymakers over here talking about long-term ideological changes of our energy market, and they're getting further and further apart, and what's being sacrificed in the middle is our economy and our energy security. And so if we actually were smart, and last slide, I'll just talk about, this is obviously on the table right now with the tax debate that we have going on. On an annual basis, we spend about $18 billion in tax treatments for the energy industry. We have to remember, as we put tax on the table and energy on the table, the predominant tax we're talking about is in the renewable area. And so we just need to be cognizant in this tax debate we're having on Capitol Hill that that's what we're talking about. It's not removing tax treatments for 5 oil companies that's going to solve this. It's predominantly tax treatments that go to the renewable industry. So we have to be careful of what we're talking about here. Let me just close with, so what does this all mean? I used to be at the Department of Energy, and we looked at our R&D portfolio, and we thought, are we getting enough money out of our investment? And the answer was clearly absolutely not. When you look at what, in a short period of time, what our laboratory complex turned out, it turned out the types of new technology that we're using by TSA in our airports. So that's what the Department of Energy laboratory complex turned out. It's what you're using in airports to, now that's a good thing. My argument would be it probably should have come out of Homeland Security. Rather than an energy laboratory, we developed the artificial retina. I'm glad we have the artificial retina. But that was energy R&D dollars. It probably could have been NIH R&D dollars. Why is that happening? It's because we've turned loose our laboratory complex into entrepreneurs. I'm all about entrepreneurs. I'm in the business sector. But what we said was go out and find some money. And instead of it being aligned with our policy objectives, if we want to reduce our dependence, we want to diversify
our energy supplies, we want to make them more affordable and reliable. We said, go out and find customers. And they have, to their credit, but it is not aligned with our policy objectives. And we really need to get that back under control. And we also need to make sure that what they're developing is relevant to the market. You know, we don't want them developing something for the combustion engine that nobody's going to use because it doesn't fit and people won't buy it. So the private sector needs to be brought into the R&D complex in a much more fundamental way for it to be effective. So I'd argue that there's a place for R&D for the government, but it is in those long-term things that where there are no profit motives. The technology that we're using today that's changing our energy landscape, horizontal drilling, fracking, efficiency, has been the domain of the private sector. And we need to recognize they're the engine of growth, they're the engine of innovation, and they're only able to do that, my last closing remark is, and I align myself with Dan Jurgen in this, is that if we have the people to do it. And we are not graduating enough engineers, enough people power, enough people that are skilled to innovate for the 21st century. The state of Florida, if anybody here's from Florida, I'll apologize in advance, graduated 62 PhD engineers last year. 62. You cannot run a 21st century innovative economy on 62 engineers. So we have to take serious stock of, is it R&D that we need to be spending? Or is it actually getting people that are going to innovate, find that next, cool technology in their garage, bring it to the marketplace at record speed and change our future? I mean, that's where we need to be thinking, and what tools do we have in our toolbox to accomplish that, while at the same time we utilize all of our resources here at home more effectively and to our economic benefit.
Thank you very much.